Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Don Lemon Show, Hot Topics on this Friday morning. Wow. Sometimes things just floor you. I thought that after what happened to me last week, I think they're on, I don't even know if they're comparable, but I don't even know what to say. Because I have been saying that this president is racist for so long, and I think before anybody on television would say it, getting called a race baiter and people telling me I was too sensitive or that he said things that were racist adjacent or that he was bordering, and he's just a plain out fucking racist. So let me say this just plainly, okay? Because I'm talking about this video. This video, and you just put the first image of it up, Andy. This video should terrify anyone who really takes the United States seriously. So yes, what you're looking at, there you go. It's not just a meme. It's not just Trump being Trump. It is a sitting American president posting an AI video depicting the former president and former first lady, Barack and Michelle Obama, as monkeys. And this isn't funny. It's not comedy. This is not politics. It's racist, deranged filth, sewage, below the gutter. The oldest insult in the book, dressed up in AI generated pixels, and then pipe straight through the most powerful office on earth, which is the president of the United States. And the most dangerous part is not even the racism, though. I mean, God knows that that's disgusting enough. The most dangerous part is that what it reveals about him, them, meaning the administration and the people who support him. The absolute collapse of seriousness, dignity, although I don't know where that has been for the last 10 years. It is the sort of casual demolition of dignity of the presidency for a cheap laugh from the worst people on the internet. Now, here is the thing. I don't think this is just for a cheap laugh. I think this is a distraction. So Lord knows what is coming out today or soon, or what he is covering up from the Epstein files or whatever that would get him to do something like this. Imagine if any other president had done that. It'd be emergency meetings, there would be resignations, there would be consequences. Because, and if it happened in any other country, or even in this country, because right-minded people, other nations as well, understand something that we have apparently forgotten, that the head of state is not an influencer. The presidency is not a personal content account. But here in America, we are told to just shrug, to just roll our eyes and move on. And I'm going to tell you what the White House is saying in just a minute, to treat this just like another day in a circus. This is a statement released to the media from the White House press secretary. This is from an internet meme video. That's what she says. Do we have her, Caroline Levitt's quote? This is from an internet meme video depicting President Trump as the king of the jungle and Democrats as characters from The Lion King. Please stop the fake outrage and report on something today that actually matters to the American public. Fuck off, Caroline Levitt. And for what it's worth, there are no gorillas in The Lion King. That's what she said. And look, White House Press Secretary Caroline Levitt's statement on President Donald Trump posting a video depicting Barack Obama and Michelle Obama as monkeys. This is from an internet meme video depicting President Trump as the king of the jungle and Democrats as characters from The Lion King. Please stop the fake outrage and report on something today that actually matters to the American public. These people, we have not heard from the Obamas yet, but I want to bring in some people who are very important to me and very important to this story. I want to bring in Derrick Johnson, who is the president of the NAACP, president and CEO of the NAACP. Charles Blow is here as a Harvard fellow, political commentator, and the author of Blow the Stack, Substack. You got to check that out. Monique Presley is a legal analyst, political commentator, trial attorney, and a friend of the Don Lemon Show. I think Monique is here. And then later on, we're going to be joined by Bakari Sellers, DL Hughley, and Representative Jasmine Crockett. So let's play this video, and I want to hear from the guests. Here's the video.
We also have Tim Wise here.
Oh, Tim Wise is here as well. Tim Wise, hello, Tim. Good to see you. An anti-racist professor and racist and expert on racism in America, and outspoken and also a best-selling author. Here's the video. And so it is the song from The Lion King, but we can't play the song because of the music rights. We will get demonetized and they'll pull this down. And this is important. We don't want to pull down. But there you see the governor of Illinois depicted as an elephant. And there's Hakeem Jeffries. And there is Trump. I want to start with the president and CEO of the NAACP as we watch this. What do you say, Mr. Johnson? Good morning.
Good morning. You know, not surprised. It is Friday. Every Thursday and Friday, they do something outlandish to distract or distort the message. We realize that he's unpopular. He's running out of white people, so he's put into the lowest common denominator. The depictions of individuals of being criminal or subhuman is an old tactic. Frederick Douglass responded during his time because majority of Americans during his time was illiterate, white Americans. And so they would communicate through cartoon characters. And so Frederick Douglass decided that he would be depicted as a dignified, strong African-American male. And what we're witnessing today is the former president, not in the Epstein file, who served with dignity, continue to uphold the presidency in a way in which we would think it should be upheld as a former president. And the current president just completely envious because he is in the Epstein files, molesting 13-year-old girls. And so we are now in this moment of an appeal to the lowest common denominators, to white racists.
Charles Blow.
One of the things that's really interesting to me is how far the needle has moved on what we can absorb. And that, I guess, also is on purpose. The coarsening is happening all the time, and the window of what is acceptable or not completely damaging and disempowering keeps moving. When in 2018, when Roseanne Barr, who is an actual comedian, compared Valerie Jarrett to an ape, within hours, ABC had released a message about that, a statement about that, and canceled her show, which was incredibly popular at the time, a big decision for them to make. But again, we were at that time, we had a black president. I mean, no, sorry, not a black president. We had we were in the middle of the rise of Black Lives Matter, and it was a different environment. And now we get to a point. I looked on ABC's site before I came on. I can't even find this particular story. The window has completely moved. I assume that this particular story will get a day of coverage, if coverage at all. The day that Roseanne said that, I was on CNN with a panel of, I think, 6 people. It was a very large panel of people on Anderson Cooper's show, and everyone was denouncing it and talking about it in historical terms. Now it's kind of a blip. And one thing that I would say,
I think you were on with me as well, Charles, if I remember correctly.
Oh, is that correct? Maybe that's true. And one thing that
I'm just saying, but yeah.
What I will say as well about you saying it's a distracting. I think one thing that we got used to was a kind of singular focused threat, or a threat that had 1 or 2 threads to it. And we're not particularly used to a multifactorial threat, so that multiple things can be true simultaneously, that it can be a distraction, but also just true in and of itself, that this person is either openly carrying the animus, or so desensitized to the fact that animus could exist that he could do this, both of which are just as damning. And that all could be happening at the same time, all very threatening, all very serious, that the president of the United States could either be this numb to racial insensitivities, or this openly racist, and what that means for policy. What does that mean for how the country itself moves forward? Because we have not had openly racist presidents like this in a while.
Monique Presley. And then what do you think of Caroline Levitt's response, blowing it off? This is about Trump, not about the Obamas.
Right. Good morning, everybody. Certainly, I agree, obviously, with Mr. President and and with my brother Charles, I agree. I see people in the comments also talking about this being a big distraction. Here's what I want to say from a human being perspective and from a legal perspective. Murdering 300 people may be a distraction from the fact that they are trying to commit a heist, because there are people evil enough where they would murder people in the streets. They would blow up a town in order to distract from a nuclear program, or from stealing billions of dollars, or from getting rid of our voter rolls, whatever the case may be. But that is still murder. And what I think we are losing, to Charles's point, what we are losing in the numbness of the repeated attacks is the fact that they're killing us, that they are quite literally getting away with murder, because even as much as we can walk and chew gum, I don't expect ABC to do a damn thing. I don't care what they do. I'm trying not to cuss, but I don't give a fuck. What I care about is what we do, because I'm not going to leave this alone. I am not. It's not going to just be this show. And I am going to place a demand on leaders that they repudiate these comments, that they demand the White House to do the same, that they worry about this president's stability, that they worry about his competence, and his entire cabinet, if they are willing to uphold somebody doing this. It is an abomination and a distraction. It is horrendous, and it's a red herring. It's a shiny, flashy thing, and it's rape. I don't know, what terms could I use for people to understand that they are raping humanity, that they are killing consciousness, they are slaughtering civility, and it is costing us our souls. That's the cost. So I need every pastor from every pulpit. I need every leader. I need every member of Congress. I need every person running for office. If they don't say anything about this, they can forget about me.
I heard that. And also I want to know what, what is his name? Byron Donalds of the world, or all of the other, black suck-ups or black Trump supporters, what they think about this. Comedian and thought leader DL Hughley is here as well. We want to bring him in, but first I want to hear from, good morning, DL. I want to hear from Tim Wise. Hey, good, thank you. Stand by, DL. I want to hear from Tim Wise here. That this is actually what you teach, Tim Wise, every single day. Yeah. What do you think?
Well, first, I hope Derrick is correct that Trump is running out of white people, but I got to tell you, I've been white a long ass time, and racists seem to never run out of white folks. So we'll see. Stay tuned, right? I think you mentioned Caroline Leavitt. She hasn't been brought into the conversation yet. This is a woman who wears a big Jesus cross around her neck every time she gets up and bears false witness. So I suppose there are parts of the Bible she chooses to pay attention to, other parts she does not. What I think is important about this particular meme or this particular video, though, and it's worth commenting on, is it a distraction? Of course, potentially so. Is it obviously racist? Well, of course it is. But I think it's not just the fact that it's a trolling racist depiction of the Obamas. You can see that on any, sort of MAGA identified X account any day of the week. What I think people need to understand and appreciate is that this dehumanization of Black people, and particularly the use of simian imagery, the use of ape-like imagery, is an old trope. It is done deliberately to lower the threshold of acceptable violence against Black people. It is done to demean so that harm can be done. It is not some playful thing. I'm sure there are trolls on X that put stuff like that up just to like trigger the libs or whatever they would say. But when you do this over and over, just like when the Labor Department puts out obviously white supremacist memes talking about we will have our homeland back or whatever, that is done to desensitize us to the overtly white supremacist and racist messaging, and not only messaging, but policy of this administration. And then finally, the greatest irony of this whole thing is that the only one acting like an ape in this scenario is Donald Trump, because apes throw shit on the walls. And that's what his X feed or his Truth Social feed is. He's just throwing shit on the walls like either like an ape or maybe like a 4-year-old child. And we're not apparently outraged enough about the fact that it's not only white supremacist, it's not only racist, it's childlike behavior on the part of the most powerful man on the planet, arguably.
And speaking of that, that's what his supporters did on January 6th in the Capitol, is spread poop on the wall like apes. Bakari Sellers is here as well. Bakari Sellers is an attorney, a 2-time New York Times bestseller, and a friend. Thank you for joining us, Bakari. Appreciate it. We'll get to you in a second. Can you hear us, Bakari? Are you good?
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to figure out why I'm on a panel with all these brilliant folk. Jesus Christ.
let's hear from DL, and then we'll hear from you, Bakari. Maybe DL can explain it. But DL, thank you so much, brother, for joining.
Man.
When you saw this, I know that you're traveling this morning. You just flew in and you just landed. Did you get your bearings? And what do you think of this?
I think that presidents behaving in such a manner is not new; it's retro. There have been more people who had these inclinations who held that office that didn't. And I think even if you look at the tone of the nation, even after some of these horrific allegations, even if it were just alleged, some of the things that happened in the Epstein files are alleged. Captains of industry are going down all across the world. Like we have a prince that lost his standing. We've lost other people that, but here it's just not even, it's water off our back. And I think it's because it says something about the deep social rot of this nation. It really does. That a man yesterday could be in court, church, so we're gonna turn back to God. How can you turn, like, more people have gone to jail for disturbing a church than potentially molesting kids. And it says a lot that we take it with the great, like Donald Trump. No, there's nowhere in America, no job in this country where you can circulate that meme and keep that job except the president of the United States of America. So how is it the man with the highest station in the land is held to the lowest standard? And Black Trump supporters are the most repugnant, disgusting human beings that I've ever, I could never conceive of anybody tolerating this. And it is a dehumanization. And if he thinks that some of the most esteemed people that have ever lived in our country are apes, what does he think of Nicki Minaj? What does he think of Jason Whitlock? What does he think of that ilk? So I just think this goes to the deep. This nation has always been in conflict. You could write a great document. We're all created equal, and still have slaves. It's just we've always been a conundrum, but now there's really just no hiding it. And the world sees this. I think the America as a construct, and I said this when we were together Wednesday. I think America as a construct is over. I think there's no saving in the nation that can tolerate all these things.
Bakari?
So I approach it a little different, I think, but I've always said, man, I guess to DL's point that this country would never change unless white male evangelicals wanted it to. And so I'm very interested to see kind of the evolution of individuals who support Donald Trump, even understanding him using racism as political currency, which is what he's doing. The fact is, I mean, let's look at this. When Keith Porter got killed by ICE, the country didn't move, didn't flinch. When Renee Good got killed by ICE, the country said, man, they're killing white folk, but she's gay. But when Alex Preddy, a straight white male who was a gun owner, got killed and shot 10 times, all of a sudden individuals said, well, maybe it could come to my doorstep. Maybe it's me. It reminded me of the Edmund Pettus Bridge, when the first time white folk were able to see black folk be bludgeoned by police batons or water hoses or dogs being bitten. Finally, you saw some change. So maybe I'm more hopeful that as we go into this new election cycle, we're going to start to see the fracture of this MAGA base as politic. But to DL's point, this country doesn't have pneumonia. It doesn't have the flu. It has a cancer. And that cancer has metastasized because we've never dealt with the issue of race. That cancer has not only metastasized, but unlike most cancer, it's been passed down through generations. I guess cancer somewhat can be hereditary. I mean, you have those inclinations and you have that medical history, but we're starting to see it passed down from generation to generation to generation. And no, he's not the first president to be racist. I argue that Donald Trump ain't even the worst president that this country's had. I mean, and that on its face is a bold statement when you think about the history of this country and how far we've come. But look, the president of the United States is racist, and I don't really care about the president. I care about his supporters, and I ask the question, what do we do? Like, I pose this question to all of you all, including Don. Like, what do we do with the people that we know voted for this man, not once, not twice, but 3 times? And maybe now Andrew Schultz, perfect example. I don't know how many times he voted for Trump, but Andrew Schultz, comedian who's in DL's lane, came out and said the other
Not
day.
at all. Not in my lane. Not at all.
your genre of
occupation.
your genre of occupation. But what do we do with these people who supported Trump who now say, oops, I made a mistake? How do we deal with them is the question that I'm grappling with.
Well, I'm always happy to hear from people like Bakari, because I need hopeful people around me, because it's just not how I see the world. I mean, I'm reading too much American history, and when white people feel threatened and feel outnumbered, or feel like that is a destined part of what is about to happen, in the late 1800s, the phrase was Black domination, because there were some southern states that had majority Black populations, and people were, irate. They just said, I cannot live in a government that is run by Black people. We have to figure something out. And I believe that Barack Obama sparked that fear again, that there was a coming moment. Majority of white people had voted for someone else, and they had lost. And the idea that minorities would now be picking the president, or a coalition of people, racial coalition of people would be picking the president, and the majority of white people would not get their say, shocked everyone. And I think that people have not gotten over that. We're still in the middle of that backlash.
Agreed.
I believe that when the majority of the people who were marching for Black Lives Matter in the summer of 2020 were not Black, but were young white kids, they said, what has happened to us? What are they teaching in these schools? The indoctrination that's happening, we have to stop. And we're still in the middle of that backlash. We're still in the middle of the backlash against the what is happening in the global South, people moving north. Some of it's running away from instability, but some of that instability is caused by climate change. That's still happening. Until we get out of that, I don't think it's just a mood change. I don't think it's just somebody says, oh, this is a little bit more than what I asked for. When Black people were being killed in massacre after massacre, particularly Mississippi, when they were heading into their Constitutional Convention of 1890, which was specifically called to write white supremacy into the law, and that every other southern state followed. There were people who were like, this is morally not acceptable to me, but I still like the result. I think the idea of morally unacceptable,
that's profound,
happens. When they were writing the Constitutional Convention of Mississippi, they literally were saying, we need a moral way to do this. It is corrupting our youth to have them out here killing people. So I can see a moment where they say, yes, this is morally not what I want, but the result I want. And so how do we get the same result?
Well, and
if you think
I want everybody to stand by. I want it to be a conversation like this where you all jump in. I just want to put something up, and then everybody, you're free to jump in and talk or whatever. But I just want to put this up because of what Bakari said about, and Monique saying, I want people to speak out. This is Tim Scott. Tim Scott, I just love you, right? To Donald Trump, praying it was fake because it's the most racist thing I've seen out of the White House. The president should remove it. That's from Tim Scott.
I want to jump in. I want to ignore Tim Scott because what Charles laid out, I think, is more important. I grew up in Detroit, and I lived through the time where 1 million white people left the city because you had a Black mayor. When I'm saying you run out of white people, when that happens, when you're outnumbered, where you can no longer dominate control, you begin to remove all of the power outside of the system. I live in Mississippi. I know of the 1890 Constitution that Charles is talking about. Leading up to that point, there were massacres, armed resistance in the streets between Black former Union soldiers and white folks, and a deal was cut only for the Black folks to be betrayed. And the reason why is because it was running out of white people in Mississippi because Black folks was the majority, and we began to govern. We created the public education system. And what's happening in this country, the population of white people is shrinking. You begin to create these subhuman images to justify really bad stuff. 3 key junctures that I'm looking at here. There's a lot of junctures, right? He needed to change tax policy, so he put up all kind of distraction. He passed the tax bill that shifted everything. Secondly, he needed to distract from the Epstein files. We went through all of this stuff, Minneapolis, Los Angeles, DC, National Guards, and now the Epstein files are released. His next thing that I see is November election. And he is concerned that they will lose the November elections. So he's going to continue this type of approach. We will probably see ICE agents stepping up in the 15 states that he know he cannot win, where a lot of the votes come from. We will begin to see all type of distractions. Good meaning white people will begin to turn a blind eye. I'm waiting to see what corporations are going to say something about this post, what individuals are going to speak out outside of our community and our allies, because we see it for what it is. He's running out of white people, and therefore he's going to go to more and more extremes to desensitize in order to justify some bad behavior. I'll stop there.
I got to say this about Tim Scott. I feel so bad for him because remember when he was running for president, Tim Scott had to pretend to like chicks in order to run for president. So that was a very sad thing. He wanted to be president so bad he pretended to like girls. But the thing that is so funny, and Charles alluded to this, and I think you have too, Frat, but America is really like black people invented writing, but white people invented the eraser. And the one thing that does give me hope is that black people voted, 92% of black women voted away, 85% of black men, but a large percentage of educated white people voted the same way. So everybody recognized the inherent danger that he represented. So how did a dude that went to Harvard see the same thing as a young black man who lived on Harvard? I think that he represents something that I'm not even sure a lot of white people have ever seen before. Everything this country has built, the idea of itself, is at odds with the reality of it. And I don't think a lot of Americans understood. Like you have these deeply entrenched people, obviously, but there are people who really didn't feel that this could ever happen to this country. And that's why you see we were never protected by laws. It was norms and kindnesses that kept us here. Like there was nothing to prevent him from doing, but there were a whole faction of people that knew that these loopholes existed, that knew these crevices existed, and were going to exploit them, and that's what we're seeing now. But I think there are a lot of people who are not sure that this is the America that they can tolerate. And so that is.
And Don, I just want to bow out because I have to go. But happy Black History Month to everybody, and thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
While we still got it. Let's see.
All history matters. All history matters.
Before you go, do you have any profound words before you go?
No, I think we touched that. I just I want people to wait.
Charles's internet said he got to go.
Charles's internet said he's got.
I'm sure that's Scott Jennings doing the text.
Yeah. Hey Don, if I could,
Charles, your internet is gone. Yes, thank you, Charles. We appreciate it. We'll see you. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, I was going to say the thing that white supremacy has always relied on, at least in the modern era, in the course of my life, is plausible deniability, right? And so the plausible deniability is harder when you have agents of the state murdering folks in the street. It's harder when you do the overt stuff. And so what I think is really important, Charles had mentioned this before, was or alluded to this before, is that when you have these spasms of overt racism, like what we're seeing with this meme or what we're seeing with the killings and the beatings in the street, it oftentimes can serve as a foil for the stuff that they're doing behind the scenes that nobody's paying attention to. Not just the Epstein stuff and the tax stuff. I'm talking about the other racist shit. Like, for instance, if paying attention this last couple of weeks, it got almost no media attention at all. But the Department of Education dropped their appeal to try to keep the ban on DEI in K-12 in colleges and universities. A court had thrown that out, said that it's unconstitutional, violation of the First Amendment. You can't ban these things. But guess what? Dozens of colleges, maybe hundreds of colleges, have already eliminated all equity efforts, at least under that name, fired people from those positions, rolled back programs that they had been operating for 30, 40, even 50 years. And how many of them do you think are actually going to put those back? Probably very few. So they've already gotten what they want. And it wasn't in a meme, and it wasn't in some racist insult put on Truth Social. It was an executive order and a dear colleague letter from the Department of Education. I beg to remind you, a department run by a wrestling lady, right? Run by a wrestling lady, previously run by the Amway lady. That's who we had the last time. So we've had the two worst Department of Education secretaries doing crazy stuff, and nobody wants to pay attention to that. We'll pay attention to the obvious and the overt, but nobody's talking about the fact that they're rewriting history, pulling things out of the Smithsonian, telling us we can't even call Byron de la Beckwith a racist, the man who murdered Medgar Evers, saying that we have to take the fact that he was a racist white supremacist off of the historical marker that's at that house. When we talk about the murder of Medgar Evers, this is the stuff that nobody seems to get incensed about. And let's understand there's a method to it. If you can erase the history, if you can treat it like an Etch-a-Sketch, that old school toy that we used to play with where you just shake it up and shit just disappears. If you do that, then it allows young white people, including a lot of those young white folks that were in the streets in 2020, who were coming, into the movement. And as y'all have said, Charles said, scared the hell out of a lot of people. Right. It allows those white folks to grow up thinking, oh, well, I guess there has no harm, no foul. Like, what do you mean white supremacy? What history are you talking about? And when you erase that history, black and brown folks may still learn it at home. They may still learn it from family, but those white folks who are hearing it and learning it maybe in class or learning it on the internet are going to be completely devoid of the ability to engage in allyship, which is why I worry about the idea that Trump and people like him are going to run out of white folks, because we just keep making white folks do this shit for 400 years.
Well, don't worry. The
like to
NBA
say-
and the NFL are trying to do something about that, baby. The NBA and the NFL are trying to do something about that.
But yeah, they paint racism in the end zone. I define white supremacy as those individuals who treat equality like their oppression, right? And that's just my little generic one sentence phrase to encompass how I view white supremacy. But even more importantly, I think the bastardization of the president of the United States and Barack Obama, the dehumanization, goes to something that Black folk have been living through for a very long period of time, which is we don't get the benefit of our humanity. And so that's what happens when you see these pictures of apes, because when you see people as something less than human, you're able to inflict violence on them. And I'm not just talking about state-sanctioned violence. I'm talking about the miseducation of Negroes throughout the South. In South Carolina, we still have a quarter of shame, where kids go to school and their heating and air don't work, where their infrastructure is falling apart, where if you have a heart attack in certain places in the South, we don't even have access to hospitals because they're 30, 40, 45 minutes away, right? I mean, this is the type of violence. You're talking about water systems that don't work. I'm not just talking about getting gunned down in the streets. I'm talking about redlining. I'm talking about the fact that Monique and her girlfriends are 3 and 4 times more likely to die during childbirth than their white counterparts, right? That's the type of violence that I'm talking about that comes with this dehumanization of people that because in my church at home in Denmark, South Carolina, we got Jesus, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and Barack Obama, right? But when you're able to throw these images, particularly for younger white folks, when you're able to erase the history, when you're able to do these things and then portray him as an ape, I mean, and this is the rub for me, DL, and Derrick too. This is the rub for me. Look at everything that Lloyd Austin had to do to get his position, right? Look at everything that Jay Johnson had to do to get his position. And then look at Barack Obama, who had to be editor-in-chief of the Harvard Law Review to become a United States senator, to become president of the United States, and compare, I mean, and just on a very simplistic level, use complete sentences. Like his subject and verbs, they not fighting every time they speak. And we now have the antithesis to that in Donald Trump. And so I guess that's my fear. And we live in such a culture of low expectation that oftentimes we get what we expect. And I guess my youthful naivete is why I have this hope for tomorrow. And I am focusing on giving grace to those individuals who may have wrapped their arms around Trump. And this is where me and the panel might go sideways, because I feel like we need them. I feel like we need them if we're gonna ever see that change that we want to see.
Listen,
No,
the
the saying is always right, and I know that Bakari will know this, and this is why on this instance I have to agree with him. It's not permanent friends, it's permanent interests.
I'm talking about a political conclusion, Monique, like you are.
Anybody in the civil rights movement knows that we align based on our interests, and the day when you and I align on something where my children's lives and my grandchildren's lives depend on it, I will be fighting with you from that day forward. Now, if you prove that I can't trust you, then no, you're back on the other side. But anybody who wants to come in and fight, I don't necessarily have to give you grace. I don't have to forgive you. I don't have to get overly emotional about it. Are you here now? Okay. Organize now.
I couldn't disagree more.
Register voters now. Hold on, DL. I'm gonna get right to a point in a second. Here's the thing, though. That is why, for me today, it is important that I know not what Trump did, but what people are going to do about it. I've been saying for 2 weeks. I did an entire video. The emperor has no clothes. He's out here butt naked. Everybody really knows it, but nobody will say it. So who's going to be the little child who says he doesn't have anything on? I need people to understand that this is violent enough that they must call it out. And it has to be a rite of passage for the work that we do, because Bakari is right. Something could be done about the amount of distance Black women in Georgia have to travel in order to get well woman exams, in order to get prenatal care and services, if the voters understand that there's something they can do about it. And right now, the apathy is high, and the level to which we are numb is so high that people don't understand their own power. So this fool who posted that, I know he's a fool. I know he's ignorant. I know he's depraved. I know he's amoral. I know he's racist. Yesterday at the prayer breakfast, any room for doubt? But what will be said by the people around him, and how will we organize around the very real threat of racism? I know Congresswoman Crockett is coming on here, but she's been being given the business as a Black woman, and people are out here saying no more bullying. It's not about race. Bullshit.
So I just want to say, after this period is over and I lean into Bakari's hope and we get past this, the real challenge for us is not to go back to things as it were.
Correct.
Because things as it were really bad. You know, when you look at the Department of Education, they have gutted the Department of Education, but our children still need to be competitive on the global stage. How are we going to roll up our sleeves to make sure what's constructed reflect our needs and interests? Well, if you look at the current cities across the country, they are laboratories now for us to begin to think through how can we deliver government better, more effectively, more holistically, and more equitably for our people. And that's the stage I'm in, because in this moment, we are paralyzed by someone in the White House and a Congress that refuse to hold them accountable, and a good number of the federal bench allowing it to happen. And if we get past this, lean into Bakari's space, we have to rethink how we approach this, reassess our allies, and be dogmatic about not going pre-Trump this time, because it's something better on the other side.
I want to hear DL. Don, let me hear DL real quick.
DL, why'd you disagree? Yeah, go ahead.
Here's the thing. The truth of the matter is, we can talk about our aligned interests, but white people in the South, in just the southern region of the United States of America, are dying because of racism too. They're willing to die because of racism too. This nation reads at a 5th grade level because they didn't want to share. This nation has to go through this. In other words, they didn't want to share. The idea, the most insidious word for a lot of white people is fair. It is to be fair. This nation cannot exist because if you look at one of the reasons we're in this situation is because a lot of white guys who are not educated, look at how well he does with people who are not bright, who are not formally educated. Look how well he does. And they feel like something happened to them. They feel like somebody took something from them. And they need somebody to blame. This has been going on since the inception of this country. So those people are lost. I take heart by what's happening in Minneapolis. Those are the kind of white people who would have been, they're literally boots on the ground fighting authoritarianism. Those are the kind of
in 0-degree weather.
Yeah, because I'm telling you, I love black people, but if it's minus anything, it's gonna be minus me in that movement. I can't. but I think that when you look at these kind of men, this started with George Bush, and with this, I just want to have a beer with somebody. They wanted somebody they could relate to. They stopped looking for leadership and looking for likability. It was somebody like me. I don't need to be like my doctor or be like a tech wizard to know that he has something beneficial for me. These people in this country feel inherently like somebody took them. Like there used to be a time when they could walk down to the lodge and somebody give them a job and they could just have all these things. But they voted for the very people that took that away from them, and they looking for somebody to blame. And so it may well be just like at a certain age they start writing black and brown children off if they're not developed in a certain way. These people, a lot of them, are finished in terms of how they can be brought around. They may be well done because you don't vote for this dude 3 times and see people are losing their farms. Farms have been lost. More bankruptcies than ever. Manufacturing is gone. This dude is literally, we're not being governed, we're being grifted. And they would rather that. They would rather that than talk to us. They would rather. This is the whole
reality, though. Like, how many people talk to Trump voters?
Yeah,
I do
regularly.
I
live beside him. I talk to black people.
Generically, what you're saying, DL, but I'm a Texas girl, and not just with Texas roots, like still family there, and I talk to people regularly who belong to my family church. I talk to people regularly with whom I share common business interests, and some of the things that you are saying are accurate of them. Other things are just aligned with what they think is a business interest, where they can afford to put the fact that we are dying off to the side. And I think we have to reach all of those corners. Some people are ignorant and lost. Some people have not been called on the carpet where it matters the most, and that is in their pockets.
Yeah, if I could split the difference a little bit.
Yeah, those 2 different lanes.
If I could split the difference a little bit between what Monique is saying and what DL was saying, I think there's a difference between the early adopter of Donald Trump and some of the late adopters. Now, DL is absolutely correct about the psychological wage of whiteness. W.E.B. Du Bois told us about that a long time ago, that there was a desire on the part of struggling white people to hold on to skin as currency when there was no real currency. And that has always been a problem. It is going to continue to be a problem. Anybody who thinks that we're going to get 50% plus 1 of white folks to turn against white supremacy is a fool, just like I don't think we're ever going to get 50% plus 1 of men to turn against misogyny either. But we don't necessarily need 50% plus 1. The question is, can we get enough, right? And I would suggest the difference between the 3-time Trump voter, who I agree, I think they're gone. If they're going to have a come to Jesus moment, I am not Jesus, I cannot give it to them. They will have to have something in their life happen. However, some of the late adopting fools are the ones who I believe, as pathetic as it is, as maddening as it is, that they would decide whatever, price of eggs, price of gas, some bullshit, whatever. I believe at least some portion of them are gettable in the sense that we can speak to them about a common interest. Now, they may go sideways next week, and then that's when the coalition falls apart. That's the difference between permanent friends and permanent interests. But I would say my theory's always been, I don't care how late you come to the party, just don't tell the DJ what music to play. If you come late to the party, you will dance to whatever we are playing. We will teach you the steps, we'll teach you the lyrics, we'll teach you the tune, but you don't get to call the actual tune. It's like in 2020, there were millions of white people who had never been involved in the racial justice movement until they saw that George Floyd video. Now, I could have castigated them because I had been on that for 30 years or whatever by that time, but I wasn't going to do that. I don't think we want to yell at people or lecture people on Friday about some shit that we just figured out, figuratively speaking, on Monday. Right? We have to be willing to meet people where they are. But I do think DL's right. There are some people, if you did it 3 times in a row, if you were on Trump in 2016, when he comes down that escalator and starts talking about rapists and drug dealers and all that, if you were with him from the very beginning and you never moved off of him, then yeah, I'm not going to say that there's any value in trying to waste time trying to actually get that person. I think the amount of energy you would have to expend would be a waste. But somebody who's a late adopter, I think that might be different.
Tim Wise, that was a perfect segue.
I'm gonna go. You guys,
can you, hey,
really nice
DL,
talk.
can you just give me 2 minutes? Can you give me 2 minutes? Because I want to play this, because I want to know why. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Why we're surprised. And for those of you who have been with me for over the years, you're going to recognize this. I believe this was 2018, and they tried to fire me for this, but this could be today. Roll it.
This is CNN Tonight. I'm Don Lemon.
Who was that young?
The president of the United States is racist. A lot of us already knew that. Today, President Trump, talking with lawmakers in the Oval Office about immigrants from Haiti, from El Salvador, and Africa, said, and I quote, "Why are we having all these people from countries come here?" But you know who he did say he would welcome here? He said the U.S. should bring in more people from countries like Norway. And CNN is told that he went on to say, "Why do we need more Haitians? Take them out." Those comments are frankly disgusting. There's other language I'd like to use, but we are on television. But you know what? They're not shocking, not even really surprising, because this is who Donald Trump is. This is what he thinks. Apparently, we have to go through this repertoire every time he says something like this or exhibits some racist behavior. This is a man who, in the Oval Office meeting last year, said Nigerian immigrants should, in his words, go back to their huts. Who in that same meeting said all Haitian immigrants have AIDS. The man who based his entire political career for years on the racist birther lie that President Barack Obama was born in Africa. A man who reportedly
thank you, Andy. So then I
believes
go through a whole litany of things that could be today. DL, I'll let you, since you have a time issue, I'll let you speak. Why are we surprised?
That says more about this nation than it does about him. It really does. To Monique's point, there's not a city or a state in this union I haven't been to. Every week I'm somewhere. Texas, the entire Texas is functioning. A wealthy state like that is functioning as a third world. Like nobody gets any benefit from living such a wealthy state, and they get to do that based on how they treat racism. They get to not educate people. They get to not insure people. They get to not have a power grid that is effective, and they do that on the thing that the great thing about what's happening now. Nothing is as bracing and as mind clearing as pain, and this nation can't handle this amount of pain. Our infrastructure is crumbling, our educational system, there's nothing that's working, not even for them. So I don't think it'll be a come to Jesus moment. I think it is untenable that these men who are running this country, these systems that they set up are untenable. When he talks about, and I'm going to leave, no one from Norway and those countries are coming here. Their standard of living is far better from us. The only hope America has is black and brown people. They're the only ones coming to work. Yeah. Everybody else comes to go to the circus and they leave. Their only hope is us. Every time you see somebody coming to this country to work and to invest in the idea of America, they don't look anything like them. You'll see them come shop. You see them come to restaurants. You see them go to Disneyland, Los Angeles, and New York. That's what they do. And then they leave. The only way this nation has a way forward is there are people who still believe in her. And nobody believes in this country than more than the people she's done the least for. And that is going to be an unassailable fact. And I think more and more, what it isn't our allegiance, it is the idea that what I believe to be true isn't. It is this thing. Part of why our economy is crumbling because we got rid of all the people doing anything. It isn't a come to Jesus moment. It's that you can't do this without us. And you making it look at the way that people are suffering because brown people and black people don't feel welcome here. Look at our industries that are crumbling. So it isn't these people that are coming to Jesus. It's that you have set up a system that you can no longer maintain without these people. And so I think that's the most salient thing for me. And I'm glad there's an old expression, without a death, there can't be a resurrection. And the idea of this country had to die. It needs to. So I'll see you guys later.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
I want to throw something out there real quick. I know that.
Hey, Bakari, 1 second. Who mentioned the black farmers? Someone mentioned them. Was that you?
No, DL did.
Okay, so DL mentioned the black farmers. I just want to bring him in because he was just uninvited from a farmers meeting at the White House. Okay. John Boyd Jr., who is the founder and president of the National Association of Black Farmers. So thank you for joining us. Bakari, go ahead.
Yeah, and I'm actually at my daughter's gymnastics meet, and she started.
Yeah, I see. You look like you're in a gym.
Yeah, I am in a gym. Who decided to have a gymnastics meet 4 hours away on a Friday morning at 9 o'clock? But I love you, Don, so I'm here for you. But look, this is the last thing that I'll say. Like, this is a little bit controversial with my friends as I sit politically, because I think hindsight is showing us that what we need after Donald Trump, what we needed after Donald Trump is not a bridge. Joe Biden was somewhat of a bridge. He was supposed to be a bridge or a palate cleanser or somebody who morally and ethically was antithetical to who Donald Trump was. Uncle Joe was the nice guy, older white guy comes in and you want to eat ice cream with him, right? Well, I think what that episode in our country's history showed us is that we really need some fumigation, right? We need a exorcism, for lack of a better term. We need a more aggressive approach to go in and surgically remove the cancer that is the Donald Trump and MAGA movement. We don't need someone who's going to pacify this great notion of what, to DL's point, of what we have this country to be. And so I'm very hopeful, I'm very faithful, but I also think that hope and faith, the book of James says, faith without works is dead. That work requires us to have someone next. And I think this is what we should be looking forward to, because let me just say, over the next 2.5 years, he's going to do some more racist stuff. I mean, I hope that you all recognize this. This is not a glitch. This isn't like you take the cartridge out, blow on it, and put it back in like we did the old Nintendos, right? No, this is not a symptom. This is not a glitch. This is a part of the product. But we have to make sure that the person who comes next is someone who's aggressive enough to take the corrective action needed, irrespective of what they think the bounds of the office may be. This is going to be a cultural moment that is going to lead to the rebirth of what this nation should be or was promised to be. And so I still believe in that promise. I one day hope that the check that this country wrote won't bounce back and come back as insufficient funds. I'm not going to let y'all take that away from me. And so I just think the next person has to have that in their mind's eye. So with that, I love you all. Derrick is, I've been reading and watching a lot of Derrick Johnson, and I just want to say I had a chance to spend some time with him last week, and I began to go back on YouTube and watch some of the stuff you've been saying. And over the past 4 or 5 years, you have been more than a superstar. You've been a beacon of light and hope, Derrick. And I think that people need to recognize that about you and the NAACP.
I appreciate it, Dom. I'm gonna have to go in a few minutes.
Yeah.
I just want to say 3 quick things. One, I hope what Bakari said is heard. We can no longer band-aid this problem. And the concept of trying to go get white men, that's what the Joe Biden candidacy was about, that's over. Part 2, the reason why the response to you, Dom, from 2018 is it was a mirror being held up in the face of those corporate executives, and they can't stand a reflection of what they see, because that's the reality. That's what I want to see now with what the White House just posted, what corporate leaders are going to stand up and say something, how they're going to respond. To this day, the Klan has never been labeled as a terrorist organization, because they hold that mirror up and they don't want to see it. And then thirdly, as we evolve out of this, we must move away from the concept of egocentric leadership, because that kills us every time. We really do need to look at a community-centric approach, because when the ego is no longer at the table, then people waiting for the next leader to show up. That's a failed strategy on our part, and I hope this experience allow us to get away from that egocentric leadership model and really lean in on how we're going to build something new after we get out this moment. Continue to do the good work that you're doing, and I appreciate you being the face of resistance in Minnesota, Minneapolis, and continue to do that.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate your work as well. Now, everybody stand by. I'm going to bring in John Boyd Jr., and I'm going to let you guys finish a little bit. I got to do this because if I don't, I'm going to be in major, major, major trouble, okay? So let me make sure. I got to get to the part that I need to get to. But anyways, John and everyone, I really appreciate you guys joining. And the thing is that when we're in these situations, I want to speak out about it, and I want to be surprised, and not want to be surprised about it. I am surprised but not shocked that this is happening. And I don't know if you guys feel the same way. I said that back in 2018. You would not believe the mess that I got into, and the people who wanted to fire me, but my boss is standing by me, and people who are calling me a race baiter, and the White House and Donald Trump attacking me. We'll discuss all of that in just a moment. But I just want to tell you this. February can be a lot. Everywhere you look, it's flowers, it's candy, couples, and this feeling that everyone else has their love life perfectly figured out, the perfect relationship, the perfect timeline, the perfect story. But here is the truth. Most of us are still figuring it out as we go. Whether you are married, dating, single, or just focusing on yourself right now, you're not behind, you're right on time. And sometimes having someone to talk to can make all the difference. Therapy can help you sort through what you're feeling, understand what you really want, and take some pressure off of yourself. And I'm talking about BetterHelp. That's where BetterHelp comes in. They connect you with fully licensed therapists who fit your needs. You fill out a quick questionnaire, and if it fits, if it's not a fit, if it's not the right match, you can switch at any time. So if you've been feeling stuck or overwhelmed, sometimes like I do, this could be a step towards clarity. Get 10% off at betterhelp.com/DonLemon. That's betterhelp.com/DonLemon. Also, let me just tell you, when I started the Don Lemon Show, I thought that I had figured everything out, like all alone, right? I thought I'd figured it out. And then I figured like, oh shit, I'm all alone. Well, scripts, cameras, branding, merch, thousands of decisions every single day. And when you're building something from scratch, your to-do list can just keep growing, right? It takes over your life. What changed everything for us was finding the right tool. So for millions of businesses, that tool is Shopify. Shopify powers millions of brands around the world. And yes, we use Shopify here to bring you the merch that you love. It helps you build a beautiful online store, manage inventory, connect with customers, and even use AI to write product descriptions and sharpen your visuals, okay? So if you're worried that people won't find your brand, don't worry so much. Shopify can help you with that. It can help you reach with email and social tools built right in. So if you're ready to sell, you're ready for Shopify. Start your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/lemon. That is shopify.com/lemon. Thank you to our sponsors. Back now to the folks who are joining us. And I want to bring in now Charles Boyd Jr. Charles, we've been talking about this outrageous post from the president of the United States, but also there was a farmers meeting. You can explain to us that you went to this farmers meeting at the White House and they told you that they uninvited you because they said they're not doing DEI stuff.
Don, thank you for having me, man, and thank you for your fight, man, and your leadership out here. What happened was I was trying to attend the meeting. So the farm circle in this country is a very small circle, and I was told that there was going to be a meeting at the White House, and I, of course, I'm very aggressive. Started sending emails to the White House, and during a call there, the administration said that they were moving away from DEI and the small farmer issue and the black farmer issue, and that they may revisit it in a couple of years is what the White House says. And I explained to the staff there is no DEI on my phone. The meeting was December 8th at the White House, and why the story picked up traction today, I don't know, but I've been on MSNBC talking about the experience of me trying to attend that meeting. I've been on CNN making the same comments, but for today, the story picked up traction. It's been going on, and the White House is taking that stance. And what I was saying, Don, is we can't have a seat at the table. The meeting was an all-white meeting. There wasn't a black person in the room. There wasn't a black person in the audience, and it wasn't a black farmer or black person at the table. So that's what they're doing, and they're saying that they're doing this. It's not hearsay. They're saying that they're moving away from DEI, and that they were going to focus on large-scale white farmers and corporate farmers, is what the White House says, because they produce the most amount of food in this country. And I'm saying I am a farmer too. I represent a population of farmers, and I should be at the table, whether they agree with my politics or not. That's what this is all about, and that's what went down, Don. And you know what? It's a shame. It's a shame, Don, that America's black farmers, the oldest occupation in the history for black people in this country is farming. Whether we like it, whether we want to get away from it, whether we move away, the oldest occupation is farming. And here we built this country. Some people get the history all wrong. Black people built this country for slave labor and everything else. And now you have a president that said you can't be at the table, because you're black, that you represent a population that is black.
It's awful. I mean, but look, again, I keep saying I am surprised, but I'm not shocked, especially considering this moment. Andy, put up the thing that you have, and I also want to bring in now Representative Jasmine Crockett joins us now. Representative, we appreciate you joining us. She has served in Texas's 30th Congressional District since 2023, also running for Senate in Texas. We were talking about the Barack Obama issue, and then, John, someone mentioned black farmers in this country, and Mr. Boyd is saying that he was uninvited told not to come to a meeting of farmers. But when you saw this, we can talk about that. But when you saw this meme that they posted this morning or overnight, Representative, what were your thoughts?
I mean, it's on par for who this administration is. I mean, people consistently talk about how, I speak about this administration and their actions, but this isn't a shock for me, right? Like, people are more prone to try to police my speech than they are to policing the actions of this administration. And I'm gonna be real with you, Don, as somebody that serves on the oversight committee. We know that yesterday he said, stop talking about the Epstein files, stop talking about the Epstein files, stop talking about the Epstein files. And guess what? He is the king of distraction, and he knows how to get us talking about something other than the Epstein files. Is it new that he's racist? Absolutely not. It is not new. This is not new. This is actually on brand for him. So for him, he doesn't care, right? Like, he doesn't care if people call him racist. But what he does care about is more of those files coming out, people having more time to pour through them, people realizing that the government messed up on certain redactions, that kind of stuff. I think that that's what we see going on. But I do want to address the Black farmer situation really quickly, because I'm gonna have to jump. Again, this goes to a pattern that we've seen in this country. And I served on the Agriculture Committee, and under the Biden-Harris administration, they were trying to right a lot of wrongs that a lot of people don't even understand they were doing, whether it was disconnecting of our communities with highways being driven through them, by giving out reconnecting community grants, to which my district ended up with the second largest investment of over $30 million. And then we had our Black farmers, those that were denied access to funds. And granted, they did not get the amount of dollars that they would have gotten if they had actually just been given access to the same capital, so that they would be in the same place as their white counterparts and being able to grow their farms. They didn't have that, but they did recognize that there was intentional discrimination on behalf of the government. And so they wanted to go back and try to right those wrongs. It is time for us to stop trying to act like if we just talk nice enough, then certain people are going to be good to us. Right. That is just a lie. It is time for us to step up and be okay with saying that somebody is racist, being okay with saying that these systems that have been in place for decades were specifically targeting and harming people of color. And a lot of people at the helm sat there and either intentionally did it or sat by complicitly because they decided to remain silent and not actually work to fix these systems. So I will not be distracted. I'm going to call him out for being the racist that he is, especially during Black History Month. But at the same time, I'm going to stay on his ass, because we know that he is engaged in so much criminality, whether we're talking about the Epstein files or whether we're talking about him trying to enrich himself to the tune of $10 billion by suing the federal government because he decided to be a criminal, or whether we're talking about the $1.4 billion that he has been able to put into his pocket since he's come into this administration.
Right. But just John, real quickly, I know you have to go, Representative. Are you going to address this post specifically on the floor?
I'm gonna address it in all ways, but obviously we're not in session just yet. But for sure, I'll be on the floor, and we're gonna post our formal statement here in a second as well.
Okay. Don, let me, if I could.
Thank you, Representative. Thank you. I know you've got to jump. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Okay. Thank you. And keep up the great work. Okay. Representative Jasmine Crockett. Go ahead, Mr. Boyd. And also I want to bring in Clay Cane, by the way, before you go, Mr. Boyd. Clay Cane is a New York Times bestselling author, the host of on Sirius XM Urban View. And the new book is called Burn Down Master's House, correct? Is that right, Clay? You're muted. Yes. Burn Down Master's House, correct?
Sorry about that. Yes, #5 New York Times bestseller. Thank you, Don.
Great. Okay, John Boyd, go ahead, please.
Don, what I was trying to say is they're really upset that I said the $12 billion that the president is going around the country. Last week he was in Iowa, and he said the $12 billion had been paid out to farmers. He had just gave another $12 billion to America's farmers. Not a dime of the $12 billion has been paid to any farmer for that aspect. And the president should be held accountable. So He goes around, he says these things, and there's no accountability or fact check from the media. I am one of those farmers. I'm eligible to receive a payment. No farmer has got it, and I haven't got mine. And the president is still holding to the fact that he said he paid all this money out, Don. It's not accurate, and he continues to do. He says stuff. Oh, we love farmers. Oh, we love black people. You know, I love black people. You love black people, but you didn't have a black farmer sitting at the table at your all-white farmers meeting. There should be some accountability there, and Stephen Miller is at the core of all of this stuff. Yeah. Stephen Miller was suing us in federal court, blocking the $5 billion that was supposed to go out to black farmers, and he went around and selected white farmers to sue us individually in all of these courts, Texas, Florida, all of these things, to block the $5 billion. And then the administration repealed it, Don, and we got a lesser amount that we had to go out and do a patch and fix it. But Stephen Miller's at the core of this. And when I warned Black America years ago, Don, that he was doing this reverse discrimination thing, nobody listened to me. Nobody listened to me. He was following me around the country. He was following me around the hill, crafting up this new definition of reverse discrimination. Yeah. Show me a white farmer that they call a nigger. Show me a white farmer that they spat on. Show me a white farmer that couldn't get into a federal office only on Wednesday when they saw black farmers. And show me a white farmer where they was tearing up his application and throwing it in the trash can. And show me a federal official said they've done all these things to you and they didn't get fired. So
here's the great irony. Here's the great irony of this.
Stand by, Tim. John, thank you. John, we're going to focus on farmers a little bit more. So I appreciate you. We're going to have a whole thing on it. So thank you for joining us and bringing that to light. We appreciate it. John Boyd Jr., everyone. We appreciate you joining. Okay. So Tim, go ahead. Before that, I'm going to bring in Kara Swisher, who is a dear friend, one of my closest advisors, and the host of the Pivot podcast with Scott Galloway, and on her own podcast just by herself. You can't hear me at all? No? Okay. Go out. I'll text you. Go out and come back in. Okay. Anyway, so we'll bring Kara in just a moment. But go ahead, Tim. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say the great irony of John having been told that to include him in a meeting about farmers would be tantamount to DEI, or the bigger issue that the payouts, the duly justifiable payouts to black farmers whose land over many years has been confiscated and taken from them, that somehow that's DEI, is really rich, coming from the same people who would not call, for instance, the Homestead Act, which was passed in 1862 and gave out 240 million acres of free ass land, or incredibly low cost land, to white folks, from which black and brown folks were entirely excluded. Obviously, black folks weren't getting in on that in almost any instance. That was a handout to white folks, including an awful lot of white farmers who got their farmland, their ranch land, via a government policy. But now, when black folks say we would like to be part of that, that's not acceptable. That's DEI. This is a country that has no problem with black and brown folks working the land. They just don't want black and brown folks owning the land. And that's what the treatment of John and other black farmers suggests to us. So again, this goes back to what I was saying earlier about the erasure of history. If you don't understand the way that history has unfolded, the way that it created the disproportionality of white farmers and white landowners, and the exclusion of black farmers and black landowners, then you'll look around and you'll say, I guess farming is a white thing. And you will think of someone like John as an aberration, or as a DEI recipient, rather than understanding that the paucity of black farmers in this country is the result of a sociological process, a socioeconomic process, a process by which people were prevented, blocked, and had their land taken from them. So when we erase history, we make all of this possible, not only today, but in future generations, because people don't understand that what we're seeing is fundamentally what we saw beginning in 1876, 1877 with the overthrow of Reconstruction. That's what we're seeing right now. Yeah. Replay of that history.
Kara, can you hear us?
Yes.
You can hear us now. Okay, thank you. Kara Swisher, veteran journalist, one of my strongest supporters, friend, advisor, and the host of the Pivot podcast with Scott Galloway, and her own podcast, which is On with Kara Swisher. When you saw the meme this morning, we're talking about that, and we also talked about a black farmer being uninvited to this farmers meeting because the White House said they're not doing DEI programs. But when you saw that meme this morning of Michelle and Barack Obama as monkeys, what did you think?
I thought Donald Trump is a racist once again. I mean, none of this should surprise. I mean, he's not just a racist, now he's an old man racist. So it's not going to change. And I think one of the things that people think, every time he asks for Penn Station being named after him or whatever he asks for, this is all part of the same person the whole time, just getting worse and worse because he's been more enabled and coddled by whoever it happens to be, the people in the White House or tech billionaires or whoever we've been talking about. This should not surprise anybody. And there's also signs of cognitive failure here, obviously, because now he is unfettered in any way. And again, I don't know if it's that any more complex than that. I don't know what his reasoning to do this would be.
I want to get your response to this, Kara, because Clay will get you in a second. Kara has a time issue, but Tim Scott posted this because when I started this morning, I said I want Byron Donalds and all the other folks, or Black folks who support Donald Trump. I want to hear from them. And Tim Scott said, "I'm praying this was I'm praying it was fake because it's the most racist thing I've ever seen out of the White House. The president should remove it." Kind of okay. I'm glad he did it, but a little late. And I want to hear from more.
Well, yeah. Well, I think that's the whole thing, is they're always making excuses in this regard. And the reason Trump did it is, one, to create us all talking about it and take the focus away from all the other problems, from affordability to how people, the economy, from what's happening in Minnesota, what's happening with the Epstein file. So he's a constant need. And you're going to see this happen more and more because he's always been the greatest internet troll in history. Right. And so this is part of a pattern of creating distraction. And it's not distraction, it's something else. It's to create anger and rage. And so we're not focused in on what we need to be focused in on. And it's very effective, and it continues to be effective. But there's also the layers of racism that he carries with him throughout his entire career from way back, and cognitive issues, and the need to get his base going because those numbers are going in the wrong direction, even with people who are his fans.
Kara, I know you have a time issue. Thank you. I just wanted to get your, because I know you're going to be talking about this on your pod.
Absolutely. But let me just say, from people like Byron Donalds and the rest, don't expect anything from them. They've been part and parcel to this ride that they're on. And so they can express outrage, but are they going to actually do anything about it? Right. They can, this is sort of the way, I'm going to post about it and that's going to be it. But to actually separate or do something as dramatic as someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene, they're not going to do anything. And so that I would watch their actions, not their words, to express outrage at what is so clearly a racist trope. And not even, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But don't assume they're going to do anything. They haven't done it. They are bought and paid for, all of them. And their interests, their self-interest is over the community, over all people, not just the Black community, but everybody. And so that's
what I was going to say. What about the Republican Party as a whole, not just Black Republicans? I would expect Republicans to come out in general and say,
of course, it's not like, remember when he was the whole pussy grabbing thing, when it had to be as a father of a daughter. How about as a father of a son? How about as a person? Like, let's stop with this nonsense, and I think you're not going to hear from the GOP at all, because it's not the GOP, it's the Trump party, and the Trump party enjoys doing these kind of memes that are derogatory, and they enjoy tearing down women, and they enjoy it, and it's good for them, and it gives them some sort of weird high, and the head of it likes it and seems to enjoy doing it. And so don't assume any good intentions from any of these people at this point. And plus they're distracting, because that's what everyone will talk about today, unfortunately.
Thank you, Kara. I'll see you soon.
All right. Thanks, Don. See you later. Bye.
Thank you. Clay, I know you've been wanting to jump in, and I want to bring, Garrison Hayes is here as well. Garrison, thank you for joining us. Garrison is a thought leader. He has his own show and a digital show, and we'll talk to him in just a minute, but I want to bring Clay in to get his response. Go ahead, Clay.
Let me just say this about Tim Scott. Tim Scott has been tap dancing until his heels have been bleeding. He's made an entire career out of it. Tim Scott is a Jim Crow shame. He is a complete embarrassment. And his record alone is shameful on voting rights, on the George Floyd Policing Act. And Tim Scott is about to get his wake-up call. Because when Colin Powell
didn't he get that wake-up call when they said, go on.
Some people, a hard head makes a soft ass. Some folks need it a few times. because we all love the late, great Colin Powell. But when he was booed at the RNC convention for mentioning affirmative action, you know, there was a wake-up call there, right? J.C. Watts got it too. A lot of folks got it as well. Tim Scott is shameful. Donald Trump has been steeped in racism since the 1970s. There is still a defamation lawsuit against him from the Central Park Five. He is shameful. During the campaign, Donald Trump said more or less black folks can relate to him because he has a mugshot. So I'm praying that Tim Scott gets a soul who likes to remind us that he went from cotton to Congress, because of where his family is from. That imagery you saw right there from the Trump administration, it's exactly what they did with black folks during Reconstruction. Black folks who were in Congress during Reconstruction, making them look like animals and monkeys, but it's nothing new. So what are you going to do? What is Byron going to say? What is Burgess Owens going to say? What are y'all going to do now? This man is a stone cold racist. And the other thing, Don, I call it Southern Strategy 2.0 messaging, because you could look at President Bush's, the first Bush, the Willie Horton ad. You can go to Ronald Reagan, the welfare queen narrative. This isn't all happening in a Trump GOP vacuum. There's a thin line between a MAGA Republican and a quote unquote regular Republican. You can go back to all of these folks who use hate and division. And the thing is, will it help his base? Will it make his base warm and fuzzy inside? So I'm not surprised. I'm not shocked. It's another day, and folks are going to keep on tap dancing. I don't know what Timmy and Mindy are going to talk about tonight as they see their president do this, but no credit for Tim Scott, no credit for any of them. As they're tearing down in my hometown of Philadelphia exhibits to slavery. What did you say about that? And what do you do policy-wise? So I'm not surprised. And will there be any accountability? No. And don't forget the Epstein files.
Well, yes. Garrison?
I think Clay hit the nail on the head with something. This isn't the most racist thing that Donald Trump has done. We need to make sure that's said. This is actually low-level racism for Donald Trump. This is something that targets two very specific people. Two very specific people have been depicted in a disgusting way. But in many ways, I think for the sensibilities of white America, this potentially crosses a line that will likely be moved again. But this is almost like an N-word kind of usage. This is the thing that you can do all the kinds of racist things you want to do. You can remove Black history. You can reinstate the monuments of Albert Pike and other Confederates. You can reinstate the names of slaveholders onto our U.S. military bases, Confederates who betrayed the United States of America. You can reinstate their names. You can reinstate that history. You can honor those people. You can say that the person who killed Medgar Evers wasn't a racist. You can do all that stuff. But if you say the N-word, right? If you go just a little too far, then now we have an issue with it, right? And so I completely agree with Clay that there's no credit for Tim Scott. There's no credit for the Black MAGA. There's no credit to be given for those who are stepping up and saying that this is a bridge too far because you turned a blind eye to the significantly more racist things that he's done over the last 10 years. The thing that I am constantly reminded of is that Donald Trump can't do enough racist things, as Van Lathan once said. He can't do enough racist things to be considered a racist. I have an anecdotal story. I have a person who I used to work with who we were working on a project together. I said that Donald Trump was racist in the project, and I got so much pushback because you can't say that. Like, is this speaking to his inherent ability, his inherent, way of being? You can't say those types of things. You have to say that he's done this racist thing, or you have to describe a racist action that he's done. But I think on a very fundamental level, the nature of racism is that it is a tool. It is a tool to be deployed to get the kind of agreement, the kind of thing that these people who support Trump have wanted from him for so long. They go along with what he's doing. He's able to convince them that he is on the right path, that he is right for America by utilizing the tools of racism. And he's been deploying those tools for a very, very long time. And we shouldn't be surprised. We shouldn't be surprised.
I have to bounce on and reset for my show. But Thank you for having me. If I could just say my last thing, which is the thing that I am ending every single one of my shows with, vote.org. Are you registered to vote? Is everyone in your household registered to vote? And if you've taken care of that, can you please make sure that your entire neighborhood is registered to vote? And that will be your first step as an activist. If you're wondering what you can do, your phone is your platform. You've got your own branding machine. Now is the time for you to use it, because what are you prepared to do is the only question I'm asking these days. I know what this man has done and what he plans to do. They gave us an entire manual. It's called Project 2025. And they are walking out their plan. What is our plan other than these very valuable conversations? What is it that people are doing when they are not doing whatever their one thing that they think they're already doing is? Because this moment requires more of us. And I'm making up new lists myself. I got new lists for today that I didn't have for yesterday, because the same way we remind people he's a 34 count indicted and convicted felon, he is a racist, but the people around him are the ones that I am interested in, not him. The people who prop him up, they are the true dangers to this failing democracy.
Thank you, Monique. Tim, let me know, how are you on time? Thank you, Monique. I appreciate it.
I got a few more minutes.
Okay. Do you mind if, guys, can you just stand by, because I need to get this in? I haven't, and then we're good for the rest of the program. So stand by, please. So I've said it before, equality under the law only works when the government stays neutral. The First Amendment wasn't written to protect one religion, it was written to protect all of us, okay? But right now, that promise is under threat from Christian nationalists who believe that their beliefs should control everyone's lives, what we teach, what we say, and how we live. The Freedom from Religion Foundation is pushing back. They're defending students, families, and communities from religious coercion and fighting to keep church and state separate, just like the Constitution intended. So if you believe freedom means freedom for everyone and not just some people, make sure you join them. Go to ffrf.us/New Year or text my name, Don, to 511-511. That's ffrf.us/New Year or text Don to 511-511. Text fees may apply. Support for the show also comes from Lean. Okay, remember always to check with your doctor. Everybody's talking about weight loss injections right now because the results can be really dramatic, but let's be honest, not everyone wants weekly injections or worries about side effects. So what if you want to lose weight, but you want another option than the injections? That's why doctors helped create a supplement called Lean. The ingredients in Lean have been studied for their ability to help balance blood sugar, burn fat by converting it into energy, and curb appetite and craving so you don't feel constantly hungry. And this isn't for someone trying to lose just a couple of pounds. Lean was designed for people who are frustrated, who have 10 or more pounds to lose, and who want real support alongside healthy habits. So right now, you can get 20% off. 20% off and free rush shipping. Go to takelean.com and use the code LEMON. That's TAKELEAN.com. The promo code is LEMON. Now, back to my program. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so we've got Garrison, we've got Tim Wise, and we've got Clay. Tim, I want to hear from you because, you know, Garrison brought up a good point. He talked about white Americans. What do white Americans do at this point? Because there's nothing that seems to be able to move the dial. Not even this. And he said this is a way of them saying the N-word.
Yeah. Well, you know, you and I, Don, have been talking about what do we do with white folks since at least 2008. So this is not a new conversation. And in spite of the fact that I am white and I'm a member of the club, I don't have the answer. I've been trying to find it for a long time. But I will say this. I think that we have to, and I alluded to it before, I think we have to recognize that white supremacy is an incredibly powerful drug, just like misogyny and patriarchy are powerful drugs. Systemic injustice stays in place because it works for the people who benefit from it. And so as a result, I don't think we can ever expect the majority of the dominant group in any society, not just ours, to turn against the system that literally feeds them and advantages them. The question is, can we get enough of that group to act on the basis of moral and ethical belief to actually turn against that system and realize the harm that it does not only to others, but even to themselves? I believe that is possible, but I don't know what enough is. Is that 30%? Is that 25%? Is that 40%? There have always been, and we forget this at our peril, white folks going back to the colonial era who were against the system of white supremacy, who were part of the abolitionist struggle early on, who were part of the civil rights struggle. Never been enough of those folks, but there have been those folks. And so what we have to do, and what I try to do as a white person in this work, is to connect other white people to that alternate history, because that's not the history we learn either. It's not just that we erase the history as they are trying to do right now in K-12 schools and in museums and historical sites of Black folks and brown folks' contributions to this country. Notice what else they don't talk about. They don't talk about the history of white anti-racist solidarity and allyship. They don't want that taught. And they will tell you the reason they want to erase parts of Black history, the painful parts, is because it'll make white people feel bad. Well, my thing has always been, if learning history makes white people feel bad, it's because they're learning about the wrong white people, right? If they were learning about the white folks who stood up against that system, they would have role models that were different than George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and others who enslaved people, even while they talked about liberty. They would have different role models than people whose hypocrisy got ahead of their ethics and their morality. So we have to reconnect to that and insist that there is something more important to us than this skin. We have to decide that we are more than just that skin, that skin is not what is going to define us, and the advantages historically that have come from that will not define us. Do I expect 50% plus one of white people to ever do that? No. Just like I don't think 50% plus one of men will do that with regard to sexism, misogyny, and patriarchy. But can we get a decent enough number to stand up? We saw it in 2020. We saw, probably 15, 16 million white folks in the street out of 23, 24 million people in all. During the racial justice uprising that year. And we're seeing white folks in Minneapolis. So as cynical as I can be about the people in my club, I've been in that club a long time. I also know that I was influenced by anti-racist white allies and mentors who have showed me a different way. And I believe there are ways to reach other folks with that alternative way of being in this world also.
Nina Turner is here. She's a former Ohio State senator and the co-chair of the Bernie Sanders 2020 campaign. Nina, one of the first people I reached out to because I wanted to hear from you today. What did you think? What do you think of this?
Yeah, Don, I mean, it's just disgraceful and it's just more of the same. I mean, this president, one thing I will say about him is that he doesn't shy away from showing us who he is time and time again. But Don, this is so much bigger than President Donald J. Trump. I would almost be okay if it was only about him. But this is about the fabric and the nature, the DNA of the United States of America. It just galls me to no end when I hear well-meaning people say this is not who we are. No, this is exactly who we are. This is exactly how this country was built. And we have got to take an account in order to change something. James Baldwin, one of the greatest novelists of the 20th century, once said, not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. And so if this country continues to comport itself like this is not us, if the country continues to comport itself, everybody that's clutching their pearls right now over what the president put out, which they should, but were they clutching their pearls when President Joseph R. Biden said racist things? Were they clutching their pearls when Senator Schumer called some of the ID requirements Jim Crow 2.0? Jim Crow 2.0, sir, you don't even understand what Jim Crow was. And so, Don, the monkey, the pseudoscientist, none of this stuff is new. This pseudoscientist science that links Black people to be a higher form of ape, to be able to justify for the ruling class whites of that time how they comported themselves and treated and dehumanized Black people. At the same time, those Black people that they called subhuman or somehow a higher form of ape, they had them watching their children. We know that Black women had to be wet nurses to their children. We know that rape happened of Black men and Black women. So if you truly thought that Black people were a higher form of ape or somehow subhuman, but yet you rape them. You have the Black women take care of your own children. All of this stuff is outrageous, Don Lemon. And we don't even have to go as far back as that. If we look at the prison industrial complex, the loophole in the 13th Amendment, trust and believe that loophole was meant primarily for Black people. Now, other people, especially working class people, get caught up in that loop, but trust and believe that loophole was for Black people, the way that we're seeing ICE comport itself. Now, no comparison on the face of this earth in the United States of America to chattel slavery. I'm going to say this again to the people in the back. No comparison on the face of this earth in the United States of America to chattel slavery. However, the same energy, though, the same bigotry, the same hatred, the same methods we're seeing happen in real time on display in the streets in the United States of America. And what we do know, and I think Brother Tim Wise would agree with this, that relative status won't save you. And some of our white sisters and brothers and family and friends, and then others who are not white, because anti-Blackness is not just reserved for white people, but that relative status can't save you. And so that's why when people say, oh my God, Nurse Alex Preddy, oh yeah, what happened to him was wrong all day long and twice on Sundays. That same outrage to Sister Renee. But that same outrage wasn't there when Kevin Porter, a Black man, the first person killed at the hands of ICE by an off-duty ICE agent, was nowhere to be found. I'm not saying we shouldn't be outraged by what happened to Renee and Alex, Nicole. Absolutely, we should be. But don't forget about Brother Kevin. And Don, my last point here for this. We are in a fight, and we always have been. And the fight in the United States of America has been Black liberation on one side and ruling class whites with white supremacy on the other side. Groups in this country, and that means every other group in this country, has to decide. Are they going to pull on the Black liberation side so they get saved? Or are they pulling on the white ruling class white supremacy side? Now that's not, and I'm not saying that all white people who have extreme wealth are white supremacists. I'm saying systemically different groups have come into this country and have decided that they ain't pulling on the Black liberation side, and they find themselves in this tug of war pulling on the white ruling class white supremacy side, whether they know it or not. And all the isms in the United States of America derive from the ultimate one, and that is anti-Blackness.
Thank you, Nina. Stand by. I want to bring in a veteran journalist now and independent journalist and the host of the Jim Acosta Show, Jim Acosta. I also want to bring in the founding editor of Mediaite.com is Colby Hall. Thank you for joining this morning, both of you. Jim Acosta.
Yeah.
You are a member of a minority community, but this one is specific for Black people.
Yeah.
And you and I have gone through this before. I think I asked the president when he was running if he was racist. If you guys can find that. I asked him if he was racist. He said, I'm the least racist person. And I'm sure you have asked him similar. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I remember being in the Oval Office.
Oh, stand by. Tim has to lead. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Tim Wise. I appreciate it. Sorry, go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, no, I remember I was in the Oval Office with him when I asked him about the shithole countries comment. And remember, it was reported at the time that he only wanted immigrants coming in from Norway and Scandinavia and places like that. And he got so pissed off that he ordered me out of the Oval Office. The two things that piss off Trump the most is when you ask him about his lies and his racism. And that's because he's a lying racist. And, you know, we should just be comfortable with that. It's not a big deal to say that. I don't think it's just like the saying the sky is blue and the grass is green. And this has been going on for some time, since he said 2015, when he launched his first campaign, that Mexican immigrants were rapists and criminals. When he wanted a Muslim ban in this country, all the times he's disparaged Black people in this country. And the list goes on and on. And, you know, the thing that I think that we should be focusing on, in addition to his racism, is his record. I think he clearly wants to distract the American people from his abysmal record. He's in the Epstein files thousands of times. He has not fixed affordability in this country. There are people being shot and killed and murdered in the streets of Minneapolis, and on and on. His poll numbers, he's about as popular as Jeffrey Epstein these days. You know, it's maybe slightly above, but he's right in that ballpark. And so he's going to be throwing everything but the kitchen sink at the wall, Don, between now and November. That's just what's going to happen. And it's going to be ugly. It is going to be, you know, it is going to be like, remember that movie Being John Malkovich, when they were inside John Malkovich's head? That's where we're going to be between now and November. and it's going to be a terrifying place. But people need to stand firm and understand that he does a lot of this stuff to throw us off the scent. And and he's so afraid of a voter revolt right now that he'll do just about anything at this point. He's sending Tulsi Gabbard down to an election headquarters in Fulton County, which, by the way, that's a whole other thing that is obviously racist on Donald Trump's part. He always talks about how the elections can't be fair in Atlanta and in Detroit and Philadelphia. I mean, this is all hardwired into his system. We just have to be comfortable, I think, talking about it and understanding it's just who he is.
Thank you, Jim. Colby Hall, your article, man, on Mediaite.com this morning I think it's fascinating. I've been sitting here, doing this, but I've had a chance to read a bit of it. It says Trump shares racist imagery. Cable news reveals its priorities. Talk to me about that.
Well, he posted this thing at about 11:45 last night, and I was immediately sort of curious, like, well, shocked, outraged with what Jim was saying. There's such a fire hose of conflict and scandal and crazy that comes from Trump. It's easy to predict some sort of like kind of cable news shrugs and like, how do we cover this? And of course, the way to cover this is to call it out for what it is. And I was delighted to see that Joe Scarborough sort of kind of led the show by going off on it. CNN has since really ratcheted it up. Like Wolf Blitzer has said on air that this is disgusting. I'm not going to share it. And yet, of course, the 800-pound gorilla, the network that is most in line with the Trump administration, gets by far the most ratings and is making money hand over fist, has entirely ignored this. And that's Fox News, of course. And, we talk a lot about the sort of fire hose of crazy and how it numbs us. This is so beyond the pale that it needs to be front and center. And I've reached out to Fox News to ask like why they're not covering this. Of course, they've not yet replied. I don't expect them to cover this because their abiding principle is not to really cover the news fairly or even to be a news network. As the CNN CEO, Mark Thompson, said to me, Fox is really a partisan affinity network. And so they are dedicated to giving their viewers what they want, which is the opposite of what a responsible journalistic outlet should be. This is so unsettling and crazy and mainstreaming, sort of abjectly racist tropes. I don't need to explain to you all why it's so terrible. But the way that it's covered and the way that we react from it says so much more about who we are. And when, the number one most watched outlet is pretending that this isn't a thing and basically taking the lead from Caroline Leavitt, who had the temerity to say that this is fake outrage because it's taken from some sort of Lion King meme. I'm sorry, that's bullshit. And that doesn't fly. And so, I think this is a real sort of litmus test for responsible media outlets. We already know who they are. And I'm rewarded to see, I wrote that early because I wanted to kind of, not to say that I'm influential, but I wanted to call people out and say like, hey, you can't ignore this. You can't shrug. You have to get onto this. And thankfully, that's appeared to be the case. MS and CNN have dutifully covered this ugly thing as well as they should. But what will happen is there'll be continued outrage, and then Fox will ignore it all day. And then Brett Baer will talk about it for about 3 minutes on his show and dismiss it as like fake outrage or cover how people are so upset by it and ignore the fact that the president of the United States shared a racist meme of Barack
That the president of the United States is racist. And are they saying that? Are they saying that Donald Trump is racist? Because if they're not, then they're derelict in their journalistic duties.
Yeah, and not just racist. Let's be clear here. Anti-Black racism. Right. Like people play games with, this is no playing games because all the other types of isms and racism permeate from that singular fact. This is anti-Black racism, period.
Garrison, this is the reason that you and Jim and Clay and I are in independent media, because we can say this is some racist shit without having to worry about, oh, I'm going to get the call in the office and they're going to say, tone it down. You can't say that, blah, 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 blah. But this is the importance of independent media. That's why I say like and subscribe and please become a member, because it helps us stay streaming and support all of us independent journalists here. But you know what I'm saying, Garrison.
Yeah, I do. This is, as it's been said, this is racist. This is fine. But I want to touch on something that I think is actually really, really important to call out, which is how we got here. I will say that I mentioned this at the NAACP convention last summer, that we have to be careful what we laugh at. And I think it's really important to call that out in this moment, because I think what you will likely see, whether it be on Fox News or other conservative media, is that, hey, this is just a joke. And the left can't take a joke. And people don't even understand that it's just a comedy. It's just a meme, right? But what we actually have to understand is that they've been desensitizing their base for a really, really, really long time. You don't get here without, as Senator said just a few moments ago, you don't get here without the scientific racism that Elon Musk has reposted and retweeted on his platform continuously, often framed within the context of these Black people have low IQs, and that they will compare the low IQ, quote unquote, of Black people to that of animals. You don't get here without that. You don't get here without a Nick Fuentes, who is in many ways a jester, who is a clown in so many ways, and helps to push the envelope to see what the public will be okay with, and he can still be platformed by a Tucker Carlson. You don't get here without that infrastructure in place, and oftentimes that infrastructure is framed within the context of comedy, so that you can kind of just say, well, we're just joking, we're just having a little laugh here. And in reality, this stuff has real life implications. I will say it again. This is not the most racist thing that Donald Trump has done. We have to say that. And the fact that we are all outraged and it is taking up so much space and so much air in the room tells us, as we just heard just a few moments ago from that our priorities are off. The real life implications of the policies of this administration have resulted in hundreds of thousands of Black people unemployed. That is the reality. Like, hundreds of thousands of Black people have lost their jobs. Opportunities are lost. Colleges are saying that Black enrollment is down in their universities because of the policies of this administration. The Department of Education has gone after different schools to ensure that they do not enroll, that they do not enact their DEI programs, which are explicitly anti-Black, and they affect far more people than this little image, which is a big deal, and it is revealing, and it hopefully opens the eyes of many, many people. But we have to be honest about the fact that what this administration has done over the last year, and even in their first term, has been extremely racist and extremely harmful and detrimental to hundreds of thousands, if not millions of Black people, Black children hearing this stuff, growing up in a country, in a world where this is acceptable, where their neighbors are okay with this. We have to call all of that out. And I will say again that I think it starts with the realization that they will try to use humor in a very sinister way to kind of get past our sensibilities, to kind of cut through and make this stuff okay. I'm happy to hear that people are not okay with this, but there have been so many things leading up to this moment that we have been okay with, and it is precisely because we've allowed this stuff to persist, to be okay in the public setting, in the public center for so long.
Don, if I could just add really quick, speaking of legacy media, and I was saying this last week when you were arrested and they tried to charge you with an 1871 KKK act. Later on tonight, on particular channels, are we going to have a roundtable discussion about this moment, hearing the other side? Because on this show, Americans are talking. Are we going to debate? Are you going to have a certain person debating if this was really a joke or it wasn't a joke? Are we going to see that?
Clay, go, hold on. I want you to finish, but how do you have a debate on the other side? Look at the picture that's up there.
That's what I'm talking about. This is what I'm saying. So in about 10 hours, you're going to see a debate because here Americans are talking. There is no side to this. There is no other side to this. For the major legacy media outlets, as the producers are planning right now and getting all their talking points together and finding out who they're going to call to have on their show, what kind of foolishness are y'all going to show on the other side? This should not be a debate. This should not be up for discussion. And anybody who goes on cable news tonight and excuses, and I'll also say, even if you go on cable news tonight and try to debate the people who are foolish, this is circular. This is bullshit. The same thing when I saw you got arrested, I saw people on cable news at a round table debating if Don Lemon should have gotten arrested. It's shameful. I can recall when I was writing for a particular outlet years ago, they told me in my own article that you cannot call the president of the United States racist. You can't say that. These legacy media companies, they are part of the reason why this is okay. And I'll say this respectfully, especially if you are a host of a show and you are a Black person and you're going to allow other side debate foolishness go down,
Come on.
then maybe you're contributing in some way. This has got to stop. He's going to do his bullshit, but how do we condone it? How do we say it's okay? How do we legitimize it? There is no other side to this. Full stop. Stone cold. This imagery even dates before Jim Crow.
Yes.
This is ancient imagery of Black people. My grandfather was born and raised in the Jim Crow South of Goochland, Virginia. He saw imagery like this. So I want to know what y'all gonna do tonight. I'm calling it right now, and I got to go. I appreciate
thank you,
y'all.
Clay. But no one can thank you, Clay. No one can speak to that better than Jim Acosta. Jim, you know exactly what he's talking about.
Yeah, and it's the reason why a lot of these outlets are declining in their influence. I don't think people want to tune in and watch faux pro wrestling style discussions of things that we know to be true or false. There aren't two sides to a story when it's a matter of right versus wrong. And it seems to me this is one of those moments where an anchor of an evening newscast or an anchor of a cable newscast in legacy media, this is one of those Walter Cronkite moments where you should open the newscast and say that the president is being a racist, that the president is a racist. And I think it's high time for somebody in one of these influential positions to just take the chance and make it very clear to the American people what is true and what is false. And what is true is that the president of the United States is a hateful, mean-spirited, nasty racist. And what he does and what he says hurts a great number of people in this country. And to me, this is not about there's a cancer on the presidency. The president is the cancer. And this is a problem that we're all going to have to grapple with for the next 10 or 11 months, Don. The reporters who go into the White House briefing room, I think you have to ask the question, when is the president going to stop being a racist? Why is he posting these racist things? What is going through his mind when he posts these racist things? And are any of you contemplating whether you should resign from this administration and step aside from this administration because you don't want to work for a racist? And I saw Tim Scott tweeting earlier today that he hopes this is a fake. Come on.
We put that up. Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
You're a senator from the great state of South Carolina. Stand up for your people.
That's right.
This is disgusting, awful, racist stuff. And it needs to be called out and it needs to be denounced. If you're not denouncing it, you're announcing it. That is where we are right now.
Stand by, Colby. I know you want to jump in, but I just want to bring in Wajahat Ali as a political commentator and the host of a Democracy-ish podcast and the author of the Left Hook Substack. Thank you for joining us. Go ahead now. Go ahead, Colby.
Well, so the senator from South Carolina was very sort of feckless in his criticism, but at the very least, he didn't pretend that he didn't see it, right? Like this is at least a step in one direction because at least he's saying it's racist and the president should.
I know what you're saying, but I'm tired of giving people credit for the.
I think that these senators, you can't say I didn't see the tweet anymore, or I hope this is fake.
Right?
Do you see him? That is the question.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
I also want to reiterate what Senator Turner said earlier. It's not so much that I think there's an angle here to say that Trump isn't just racist, which he is, but he's symptomatic of a deeply racist side of our nation, right? Like almost like he's a symptom in the sort of pure sort of evolution or execution of that side of America that we don't want to face. And so this is beyond a dog whistle. This is him shoring up his support from the worst side of America. And we need to call that out, right? And getting back to the media angle, all that you guys have sort of wonderfully and eloquently sort of discussed about how legacy media are so cautious and sort of feckless and afraid, craven to talk about this. that's precisely what's giving rise to independent media, right? So that's just to reiterate why this stream and why Jim's stream and why all this sort of, it's no longer boutique. This is the trend. This is the future. So there is at least some silver lining to say legacy media have lost the plot. They can't call bullshit when they see it because they're too afraid, which gives room, and that vacuum is being filled by real truth tellers, which I'm, sort of honored to be joining here. So I agree with all that's been said. Everyone needs to call this out for being racist. Trump is flatly racist, and I'm just gobsmacked. I'm absolutely shocked that this isn't a bipartisan outrage. Fox News is pretending that this didn't happen, and that says as much about where we are as a nation as what Trump posted himself. So I'm going to leave it at that because I have to hop.
Thank you, Colby. I appreciate it. Wajahad, welcome. Thank you.
Hey, everyone. Racist president posts a racist anti-Black imagery for his racist base that supported him 3 times during his presidency. We're all shocked and surprised, but I'm not. This is the culmination of coddling white supremacy, misogyny, and capitalism. The end result, its avatar, its most vulgar form, is Donald Trump, a white supremacist president, a man who has indulged in all his vulgar appetites, which includes mocking and ridiculing Black people, mocking and ridiculing Haitians, mocking and ridiculing Somalis, mocking and ridiculing Black women who have the audacity to stand up to him. This is a man whom him and his father have a track record of being racist towards their Black tenants. This is a man who cheerled the birther conspiracy, him and his racist ass wife, Melania, who most likely probably came to this country because she was having sex with really rich men, Epstein and his friends. They promoted the birther conspiracy, allegedly. They were the ones who were promoting the birther conspiracy, the anti-Black, anti-Muslim, racist conspiracy against Obama that forced Obama, our first Black president, to actually show his passport and birth certificate to this country. Can you imagine how humiliating it is for Obama, a man who is the president, to show his birth certificate? Is because Donald Trump, folks, nearly 20 years ago, was the one who cheerled this. This is a man, when he went down the fake golden escalators, he said Mexicans are rapists and criminals. This is a man who says, I think Islam hates us. This is a man who purposely, deliberately promoted the Haitian white supremacist conspiracy of them eating dogs and pets. Why? Because he knew it would work with his base. This is not just the first time that Obama has been depicted as a monkey. The New York Post, in his first term, drew him as a cartoon, as a dead monkey shot by cops. This is who they are. And Don, if I may, when you and I were at CNN, you brought me on because you're like, Waj, you keep it real. I have to indulge these people like Jeffrey Lord and others. You call it out. Thank you. I've been calling out, we've been calling out, I think Jim said it, he's a racist president. There's no, he has no, what is it called, racial trip up. There's no racial flare up. This is not a racial moment. He is a racist. And furthermore, his movement is a racist movement. And furthermore, the Republicans who support him, either, Don, they are racist or they have no problem with racism. Just like the people who partied with Epstein post-conviction. They might have been pedophiles, they might have been indulging in this criminality, or they had no problem with his pedophilia. And what you've seen now, Don, by the end of this week, is you've seen some Republicans say, well, get over it. You saw Todd Blanche say, well, who doesn't party with a billionaire? Pedophile? You saw Megyn Kelly say they were barely legal. And by the end of this week, we're going to see, probably even tonight on CNN, Scott Jennings is going to come out and say, well, Donald Trump, he didn't know what he was doing. He knew exactly what he was doing. And so I have to jump off. I appreciate you letting me.
But I want you to stand by before you give your goodbye, because I want to put this up. This is from Sam Stein. This is the White House. And I know you have to go, Garrison. I know you have to go, Jim. So trust me, but I just want you to respond to this. The White House has taken down Trump's racist video post. What does this say? Does this say anything to you, Garrison?
It says nothing to me, because they haven't stopped their racist policies. Exactly. They haven't stopped the racist rhetoric in other sectors and other areas. They can take something down, but the damage is already done. It actually already signaled to the people that they intended to signal to. And the last thing I'll say, Don, thank you so much for having me on, is that this stuff is like expert level, S-tier distraction from the thing that he doesn't want us to actually be talking about. We've spent an hour, 2 hours talking about Donald Trump being a racist, which is true. It's the fact that we've known now for 50 years. But what we haven't talked about in as much detail as we should is that he's in the Epstein files. he partied and fraternized with a pedophile. He may very well himself, allegedly, be one. And so that is the thing that this is all designed to move us away from. And so that is the last word that I want to share, is that he's in the Epstein files, and we should be talking about that as much as we're talking about this.
Can I say a last word to what you just? Can I just say what you?
Stand by. Let me get Jim in, because Jim has to go. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, I will say that I think Garrison is absolutely right. Focus on the policies here that are fueled by the racism. They're about to build a fleet of mass detention centers around this country to warehouse Latino people and people of color. And we need to get ready for that. That is coming. And it's going to be not just an affront to American values, it's going to be an affront to humanity. And the question is for the Republican Party is, at what point do you take the keys away from racist grandpa? At what point do you take the wheel from racist grandpa? Because racist grandpa is out of fucking control. He is out of control. He is out of his mind, and he is taking this country, I think, over a cliff. And until the American people wake up and deal with this, and Don, the fact that they're not playing this on Fox News, I hope that they find some clips from this show to play on Fox News, because I think people need to amp up the rhetoric, sharpen the arrows, sharpen what we say, to make sure that they get this message loud and clear over in MAGA media, because they are not, they're a part of this. They're not stopping this. And I think that this president is simply a danger to this country, and he's going to get more dangerous. And these things that pop out of his head and onto his social media feeds, they're all an example of that. And so the White House can take that post down, but Donald Trump in his devious mind knows that everybody will be talking about it for the next 48 hours until we move on to the next thing. And that is why we have to keep talking about the fact that he's in the Epstein files thousands of times, and the fact that he hasn't done jack shit to deal with affordability in this country. And so, we got to focus on his racism, but we got to focus on his record too.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, Garrison. You guys can go. Go ahead, Wajahat. I'm sorry about that.
No, not at all.
Thank you very much.
Pardon me that I have to jump, but this is what I want to say. The one positive news, the mustard seed of hope. The fact that he took it down shows you that it's so egregiously racist, and it is hurting him and his base right now that he took it down, because he never takes down his racism. He amplifies it. They double down on it. They relish it. Even after him and JD Vance were told that the Haitian lie was a lie, what did they do, Don? They still continue promoting it. The backlash to this one, because of the Epstein files, because he's negative double digits on the economy, because he's negative double digits on immigration, because ICE is murdering people. I don't know if you've seen on social media right now, but even some Trumpers are calling into right-wing places and saying, I'm a triple Trumper, but this is too racist. I'm like, wake up. Thank you to come back to reality. I don't know if you've been in a coma, but this is who he's always been. But the fact that they just removed it, this is the last thing I want to say. The fact that they removed it is a sign, our usual play that always works with the base, Don, it didn't work this time. And people are waking up finally, because this United States of amnesia, it takes us a long time to wake up. And these tricks, he's like an old band in Vegas that only has one hit. So he goes and tries to play the racism hit and goes against his biggest target, Obama, and anti-Blackness, and it still didn't work. For the first time, it actually has gone against him with his own base, which is a sign, Don, of his weakness, and a sign that the rest of us need to go on mother effing blitzkrieg offense. And Democratic leaders, Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, exactly, Nina, exactly.
They useless. Ali, they are they are useless.
Feckless, useless, and complicit. So that's why it's up to us. That was my final point. Is it is up to us to push these mother efforts. Blitz them. Stop playing prevent defense. Smash mouth football. He's weak. He's on his cankles. He can barely stand. This is all a sign of desperation and weakness. He'll be more cruel, more violent, more desperate. And this is why we have to have our eyes fully wide open. We need to organize as a collective, and we need to go on blitzkrieg against MAGA. Thank you, Don. I wish I could stay longer.
Thank you, Watch. I appreciate it. Nina, and then there were two.
Yeah, Don, everything that, Ali, I'm calling by his last name, but Ali was saying,
Wash
is exactly right. This is how we have to roll. People of conscious mind have got to unite and stop playing games. But this is the thing that I want to take further, and all of the panels, and I hate that Garrison had to leave, because Garrison made a very important point. people should exactly be outraged about this, but there were other things, policy type things that should have drawn the most outrage. Now, I was looking at the numbers the other day. Black women, by way of example, make up 6% of America's workforce. We're double that representation with the federal government. So when the federal government shut down the first time, Don, as you know, Black women were disproportionately impacted, making up well over 30% of those who were laid off. And so, you know, Garrison was making some really important points about the types of policies that have happened heretofore that have had a crueler impact, a more material impact on the Black community than even this. This is a psychological impact. And I also think that this is a reminder, because sometimes, Don, we get a little seduced, but we think we've made it. When we are constantly, especially Black people, are constantly reminded that as far as we have come, and we've come a mighty long way, but we've had to fight for every inch, every single inch of progress. People have given up blood, sweat, and tears for every inch of progress. Nothing was ever given to us. So as far as we have come, there's still so many, many, many more miles to go. This is just yet a reminder. And the complicitness of the Democratic Party. You know what? President Donald J. Trump is indeed responsible for his actions, his reactions, his lack of action, his hatred, the way that he is using power. But Don, let me tell you something. These neoliberal Democrats are responsible for President Donald J. Trump getting another term. They are. And we don't have that conversation enough. Lesser of two evils is still evil. And when the Democrats had the opportunity to show that they understood the pain points of working class people in the United States of America, when they had the opportunity to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, when they had the opportunity to increase the minimum wage, when they had the opportunity to make sure that we had Medicare for all so people are not dying or putting insulin on credit cards, when they had all these magnificent opportunities with the same type of power, they actually caved. And even more recently, they even caved on the ICE thing. What? Take off the mask? Have cameras? Well, I distinctly remember some American folks got killed even with the cameras playing. I mean, they give up, they give in, they want to be softer and gentler. There is no opposition party, Don, and I'm worried about that. There is none. All of these people are feckless because they all want access and they all want to be invited to the Christmas party. And these mainstream media folks, you know what, Kobe, absolutely right. Let's see how they roll tonight. Let's see how they roll. It's outrageous, Don. Do people understand that the ape-like image is the image that was used to dehumanize and defile Black bodies?
Let's put it up. Yeah, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. They don't understand this. But every time Black people talk about our journey in this country, we're told forget about it, or you're being too sensitive. No, we haven't been sensitive enough. And you know, it was somebody who said, this is not my quote, but somebody else said that this country is lucky that Black people want justice and not revenge. That Black people always ran towards justice and not revenge. We've always said we want to be treated fairly and equally and you know, give us what's old, because you're not giving us nothing that's not old. That's all and we love this country more than it loves itself. But yet constantly we are reminded of how this country and certain leaders, and yes, I'm going to say the country because this is collective. Again, it's easy to point the finger at President Donald J. Trump, and we should. We absolutely should. But this is so much bigger than him. It's so much more insidious than him. And now, even when I think about what happened to you and the other journalists, I mean, so far, tell me if I'm wrong, but only 2 journalists were arrested, right, for covering news in
I think there are 4.
4?
I think there are 4.
Were they all Black?
I think it's yeah.
Were they all Black though?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I'll rest my case. All Black.
Nina, stand by. If you have to jump, I understand. I want to bring in Jolly Good Ginger, Jolly is been speaking out about
I see Jolly all the time. Hey,
Jolly.
How you
Jolly,
doing,
that's your thing, Jolly. That's how you actually came to prominence because you are MAGA coded. Your family is MAGA. You grew up with a racist. racist household, but then you had an epiphany and you saw the light. When you saw this image, if we can put it up, it's an awful image of the Obamas that the president put out on his social whatever the organ, whatever that he owns. And then now, according to Sam Stein, I haven't seen, I've been on. According to Sam Stein, it has been the White House has taken it down. But your thoughts?
I saw it last night, and I saw some people arguing. Do you think that he really posted this? Do you think? Yeah, of course I think he really posted that. Your default position should not be maybe he didn't. Your default position should be to understand why he definitely did. And so I did a whole TED talk on this in 2022. I opened my speech by saying, Donald Trump. There's a lot of people that say Donald Trump ushered in this, new age of white supremacy. That Donald Trump ushered in hate and all this stuff, and that's not true. Hate ushered in Donald Trump. White supremacy ushered in Donald Trump, and none of this should surprise us. We see on DHS's social media just a few weeks ago where they were posting a song that was written by the Klan, saying we'll have our home back. They've been on their recruitment flyers. They've been using language like join us, free the homeland from the invaders, save your homeland. This is wildly bigoted language that is being freely used by our government. And what pisses me off is it's being done without challenge, right? Now, I'm challenging it, you're challenging it, the senator's challenging it, but I'm talking about en masse across America. America's not challenging it. And I'm going to go ahead and call the guilty party to the floor. It's white people. I've been saying this for a long time. White people it's our job to challenge white supremacy. It's our job. We know about it. White people, there's white people who I meet at rallies. Now, rally's done. They're in the street. They're protesting. They're at a rally. And then we might be chatting afterwards. And they'll say things like, I'm just pulling something out of the air right now, but something like, I understand why we got to have immigration enforcement. And I'm all like, stop. Like, you've already started the conversation wrong. What that is, that's a white person's need to somehow, I don't know, like minimize or lessen the hate of the other white person, right? Like we should have immigration enforcement, just not the way they're doing it. No, we should just start the conversation at human rights. That's where we start. We don't start it at this little capitulation. And white people just don't get it yet. When Alex Pretty was killed in the street, that's a horrible death, horrible murder, state-sanctioned murder. But everything about it was identical to Philando Castile. Legal weapon gun owner, stopped by the police, cooperated with the police, still murdered. But when Philando Castile was murdered, it was a different reaction from the majority of white America. And so this country is founded on exactly what's happening right now. It's always been going this direction. And there's this idea that if Donald Trump gets impeached, then it stops, and it doesn't.
Ooh, Jolly.
Look at this. Look at this. I know you want to respond. Sam Stein is tweeting this. The White House 1 hour ago. It's a meme video of the Lion King. Stop with the fake outrage. The White House 10 minutes ago. It was erroneously posted by some staffer. A staffer apparently is allowed to post videos directly to Trump's account at all hours through the night. Maybe look into that system. I mean, come on. How would you defend it? Because I'm assuming that someone approved her response, correct? Or they all looked at it and she just didn't say it without checking with the president or checking with someone. But still, here we are. Go on. Sorry, Nina.
Yeah, I mean, blame the staffer. I mean, all politicians do that. He won't be the first one. They won't be the first one to do that. I just got the amen, Jolly, you bringing it. This did not start, and that's what I want people again. President Donald J. Trump is responsible for his behavior, his misbehavior, his bigotry, his hatred, the way he uses power. But understand this did not start with President Donald J. Trump. Again, if it was only him, we could deal with it. But this is in the DNA of the United States of America. This is how this country became a hegemonic nation. It became a hegemonic nation off of the backs of generations of Black people. Vile, generationally, could not get out of enslavement, born into it, taking on the condition of your mother in a country that gives you the condition of your father. But for if your mother is Black, You take on her condition for generation after generation after generation after generation. This is it. And the pseudoscience that is tied to calling Black people higher versions of apes. Again, this did not happen in the 21st century, baby. They were rocking like this from the beginning.
Also, Don,
it's easier for people to blame. I mean, he should be blamed for this, but Don, to me, that gives people an escape hatch too. Because now you just want to lay this at his feet instead of us looking at the men and the women in the mirror, to quote Michael Jackson. This is it. This is America.
also, Don, on that response, on the White House response you just read, it's very, very important that everybody not pay attention to what they said, pay attention to what they didn't say. They didn't say a White House staffer did this and they've been fired. We condemn this. This is not becoming of what this administration stands for. I apologize to everyone offended by such an egregious, hateful Nope. It was somebody else did it. Don't be mad at Trump. That's what what they didn't say is the only thing you need to know about it. And also, let's just be for fucking real. He did it. Like, I don't care what he's saying. He did it. So I don't even want to respond to their deflection as if it's real life and try to justify it and try to dissect it. Nope, the staffer didn't do it. Donald Trump did. He has, first of all, he's got this sundowning thing that all people do when they're his age. They don't sleep a lot. They're up late at night. And he sits on the White House shitter at 3 o'clock in the morning and tweets all the time. He rage tweets. He does it all the time. How many times have we woke up and found out that from 1 a.m. to 3 a.m., the president posted, 20 times, 30 times. I think one night he posted 100 times in that little window, that witching hour there.
Or a staffer, Jolly.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. What staffer has his phone at 2 in the morning? That's bullshit.
He needs to own up to this. I mean, what? You deflecting? Yeah. Own up to this.
This is what Senator Pete Ricketts, this is Nebraska, is saying, and is a Republican, tweeted this. And, at least there's one, if you can put that up, Andy, but Senator Ricketts is saying, even if it was a Lion King meme, a reasonable person sees the racist context of this. The White House should do what anyone does when they make a mistake. Remove this and apologize.
There it is. Because you shut it all down, but he can't apologize. Yeah. And you know what the Lion King meme, did they watch the Lion King? I mean, the Lion King was a lion, okay? Wasn't a monkey.
Yeah. Right. Thank you both. I appreciate it. Good to see you.
Thank you, Don.
Good to see you.
Good to see you, Senator.
Jolly, baby, you keep it up.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you,
guys. Keep up the great work. I'll see you both soon. Wow, what an interesting show today. My goodness. And it was breaking news. And I want to apologize if you're watching to some of the guests we had booked, someone from the Bulwark. We're so sorry that we could not get you on. It's breaking news and we can't control it, but we love you guys over at the Bulwark and we respect everything. So thank you. If you want to know anything about the show, which is the Don Lemon Show, you can go to donlemon.com. And when you go to donlemon.com right now, you see right at the top of this, and I'm going to show you guys how to do it. Right at the top of the page where you see donlemon.com, we are nominated for 4 NAACP Image Awards, and we have on our site, donlemon.com, we have it all figured out for you, okay? And so if you go, just take the steps. Step 1, hit Outstanding Podcast, Society, and Culture. What you do is hit that, and then you vote for Don, right? And then you hit the back button, go right back to donlemon.com. And then you go to number 2, Outstanding Podcast News and Information, and you vote Don Lemon. And then you hit the back button and go back to donlemon.com and then hit the Outstanding News Information Series of Special. Just do it in the order of the numbers, back out. And then you go to number 4, Outstanding Host in a Talk News Information Series, and you hit Don Lemon and you go back out. And then you do number 5, which is go to the main page. And then at the bottom of that page, it has Submit Now. Okay, you hit that button, the Submit Now button. It's going to ask you for your email. You put in your email or whatever it is. Or first, it's going to populate, do you want to vote for and it'll have 4 Don Lemons there. Just check it, then hit Submit. And it'll ask you for your email and whatever. Just make sure you complete that process. And you can vote. I think it resets itself every 24 hours. So please support us, support independent media. Thank you to all of the new members. Remember, if you're a member on this channel, you can donate or gift memberships, and make sure you subscribe. Subscriptions are free, and it does affect that's the health of our our channel. So all you have to do is click right there on the watch button at the top, and you can subscribe to our main show page, which is on YouTube. That subscribe button, if you hit that, it's free. And then the join button, very reasonable memberships, less than what you pay for coffee a day for a month. Okay, so thank you for that. Become a member, support us, and we appreciate it. And thank you for all your love and support, especially over the last week. It has really been amazing, and I hope that you learned today. We pivoted, I changed our whole show for this that we had planned, and so that's what we can do in independent media. You can change on a dime. We don't have to worry about, what we're gonna do, let's run this by. Can we change a show? Can we do that? We do that because we can here, okay? So we appreciate you. Oh, also go on to our merch store, and I wanna show you that we have this on our merch store. Can you go back to donlemon.com? If you go to donlemon.com, and they want you to put up the new stuff that we have, donlemon.com, and click on merch, and then we are doing this to support the Committee to Protect Journalists. All the proceeds from this go to the Committee to Protect Journalists, and there are long sleeve tees, short sleeve, there's a sweatshirt and a sticker as well. But if you click on one, show the gray one because it's easier. There you go. And so it all to Committee to Protect Journalists. They all go. We will not be silenced. Okay, that's our long sleeve tee, and there's others on there, and I love them. So support us. Check out the merch store. Just go to donlemon.com. All the proceeds not going to me. It's going to go to the Committee to Protect Journalists. Okay, so be informed without being inundated. Thank you for tuning in. And until I see you back here for the Don Lemon Show on the Don Lemon channel at 5 o'clock for Lemon Live at 5, turn the TV off. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Your support means the world to us. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss a show. We're live every weekday at 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern Time with new clips dropping at 2 p. and 8 p. And if you want even more Don Lemon Show content, join the Lemon community. Members get exclusive posts, behind-the-scenes videos, and live chats just for you. So hit the join button or visit our channel page to sign up. Thanks again for all your love and your support, and I'll see you next time.